talk about ACL injury prevention. A lot of guys here, I know, have torn their ACL. I've talked to a few of you guys. I tore my ACL in '01, so about 10 years ago. So this is something very near and dear to me. You've all seen me try and squat and do those kind of things, and it's kind of hard to do that after a while, after an ACL. So I really wanted to talk about it, and really specifically, I wanted to hit on non-contact ACL injuries. We all see, you know, the tackle blowout injury, but a lot of what's not talked about is those non-contact injuries, which is about 70% of them. So, just a little bit of, I call it epidemiology because there's so many ACL injuries a year. So anytime that, you know, there's 200,000 ACL injuries or something like that, you know, I call it an epidemic really in sports. So, like I said, every year there's 200,000 ACL injuries in the United States. 70% of these are non-contact injuries, usually from planting, pivoting, you know, pushing off or something like that, or jumping and landing and trying to re-jump, those types of things. These ACL injuries cost about $3 billion a year. It's a lot of money to go out just for repeat injury. I can kind of testify to this. They talk about radiographic signs of osteoarthritis start to happen in about 80% of soccer players about 15 years after their ACL injury. I've had x-rays and MRIs done since then of, you know, re-torn meniscus and stuff like that, and I have a lot of damage in my knee. So it's one of those things that this stuff doesn't go away. Once it happens, you have this ACL, you have knee problems the rest of your life. So, the rate of ACL injuries per participant is 2 to 5 times greater in female than male athletes. I'll get into a little bit more of why that is here in a minute. But, you know, we don't want to just talk about the female athletes. The male athletes, the overall number of male athletes, since there's probably more male participants, is greater than those in females. So, again, it happens in the males as well, just with their non-contact injuries. Let's skip that one. 1 out of 10 collegiate female athletes will tear their ACL at some point in their career. So, as we move forward, I know we're here for football and things like that, but as we go on to other strength and conditioning programs and stuff like that, might be at a smaller school where, you know, you're working with all the sports and working with women's sports, men's sports, everybody. And to go along with that, you might not have the athletic training staff that we have here, where they've got a lot of numbers, a lot of people to do this kind of stuff and all that. So let's just talk about the ACL and what its function is, okay? First and foremost, it's just to provide stability in the knee joint overall, okay? As somebody plants or they jump and land or something like that, it's kind of to prevent that that tibia right there from shifting forward, okay? It's also just to prevent, you know, just any rotational movement right there. So those are the overall functions of the ACL. When talking about the ACL, we've got to understand that there's a relationship between the muscles around it. So the antagonist here, which is the muscle that kind of works against the ACL, is your quadricep. Okay, so as you plant and land and things like that, you've got that shear force on that tibia, and that quad just really contracts hard. That's going to put a lot of shear force on that tibia and in turn on that ACL. If you don't have this ratio right here, this 60 to 80% hamstring strength to quad strength, okay, you're going to put yourself at a high risk for that ACL. You have to have, you hear the quote, especially with athletic trainers, your hamstring is your knee's friend. Okay, so strengthening up the hamstring and things like that is very important. So, different movement patterns that are associated with ACL, I've already talked about those, or at least a couple of them. So, decreased joint flexion. So if you see a player jump and land, and you've got a side view camera or something like that, and they just land with those stiff legs. They kind of barely bend their knees and things like that. That's going to put a lot of shear force on that tibia anteriorly, and also just on that ACL. So what's recommended is that knee flexion be about 0 to 30 degrees, or 0 to 30 degrees is where you have some problems. Greater than 30 degrees when you land is kind of where you want to be. So again, you're just increasing the force on that. The second one is the valgus movement. So especially in your female athletes, you're going to see a lot of when they land, when they plant, when they pivot or something like that, their knees will actually come in. Okay, that's going to put a lot of force on it. They say that just valgus movement alone is not necessarily what tears the ACL. It's that shear force, not being in the, past the 30-degree range, and also that valgus movement, maybe even a little bit of twisting is what's going to tear that ACL. So, again, when two movement patterns happen simultaneously, that's when it, happens. Injury usually occurs: jumping, landing, planning, pivoting. So today, what I really want to talk about is what we can do to help prevent those injuries. If you don't have the athletic training staff that does some of these preliminary tests or something, this is just something that you can add to your tool bag to maybe decrease the risk of those chances of having that ACL injury. Okay, so there's several possible evaluations. These are some of the ones that I do with my athletes. When I'm working with youth athletes, high school athletes, or anything like that, I usually take them through this. So there's a jump series. It's called the Joint Undertaking to Monitor and Prevent ACL Injury. And I'll go over that one here in just a minute. There's a side shuffle reaction drill. And then I wanted to hit on this, just observation during your workouts. You may not evaluate every single one of your athletes, but if you see a guy or girl that is doing a lunge or squat or just agility drills in general, you see him go down into a lunge and that knee kind of comes in and comes back up, those types of things, you might want to evaluate those guys for your ACL injuries or just possible risks of those injuries. So, all right, so we're just going to talk about the jump. Again, it's the joint undertaking to monitor and prevent ACL injury. You don't need that much equipment. It doesn't even have to be anything fancy. You don't have to take them to the biomechanics lab, although you can get a lot of great stuff there. All you really need is a video camera and a sturdy piece to jump off of. Now, I did have a video pulled up. However, technical difficulties, it's not here. So I'm just going to kind of talk about the demonstration here. So what you do in the jump is a sturdy piece of equipment, say a box or a plow box or plow cushions, or even a sturdy chair would work. About 12, maybe 16 inches off the ground. And what you're going to have the athlete do is they're going to step on the box, they're going to step on the chair, they're going to be in a nice athletic stance. The only coaching cues that you're going to give them is to step off, land on 2 feet. Okay, so they land on 2 feet. As they land on 2 feet, they jump off 2 feet straight in the air and land back down. Okay, and again, I took a video of this earlier, but I don't have it. Usually what you will see, especially in your female athletes, is when they land, their knees are coming in, that valgus movement that we talked about, and when they go up, they go right back to that valgus movement, back down, valgus movement. So anyway, and then you want to take that video and show it to your athletes and show them the biomechanical issues that they may have. So anyway, the video is right there, but again, there's the coaching cues. So again, what to look for is the valgus movement. You're also looking for that knee flexion, and so what you'll have actually is 2 cameras, one from the front that will show that valgus movement, one from the side that will show if their knee flexion is greater than 30 degrees. If it's not, and they're just having that shear force, that's something else that you need to coach them up on. So the last thing that you're going to look for is the toe out. Obviously, when people are planting, pushing off and things like that, if that toe's turned out, okay, and they're planting and pushing, there's a lot of torque on that knee right there. So that's another thing that you want to look for. Okay. Well, let me just talk about the jump evaluation a little bit more. I had another video to kind of show a proper technique and one with improper technique. What you'll want to do with those athletes is really coach them up on their stance. You'll want to coach them up and make sure that they have feet shoulder width apart. You want to make sure that they start landing properly. So again, you've showed them that video, and then you can start showing them how to land properly, how to take that load and take it away from that ACL. So they're landing, knees past 30 degrees in a good athletic stance, chest up, their feet shoulder width apart, their knees pushed out, and every time they jump, they're jumping like that and they're landing like that. That alone can help, athletes' awareness, the kinesthetic awareness, and allow them to be better prepared on the field and maybe prevent some ACL injuries. So, moving forward from here, the side shuffle evaluation. We'll talk a little bit about the athletic stance first. Like I just said, you want your feet shoulder width apart, toes turned in, those types of things. When you're doing a side shuffle reaction drill, the evaluation is like this. You'll have, say, a cone here, an object here, another one 6 yards at an angle back, another one 6 yards angle back, another one 6 yard angle back. So what you'll want them to do is have good depth and all those things that you want to see in a side shuffle, and all they're doing is shuffling back and forth to the cone. Okay? And really what you're looking for is good depth, making sure their knees aren't, kicked out over the toes, make sure they've got good hip depth. You're also trying to make sure that that toe is not pointed out. Again, when they get to that cone, and if they have that toe pointed out and they open up like this, they leave their knee very susceptible to injury and impact. So what I always tell my athletes, I don't tell them even toes straight ahead, I'll tell them toes slightly turned in. So whether you've got a basketball player and you want them to do defensive slides or something like that, I'm always going to tell them toes in. And as they get to that cone, they're going to turn their toe in and make sure that they do that the entire way through it. Okay? Not only is that good just for ACL prevention and those types of things, but if I'm on the ball of my foot and my toes turned in, I have the ability to push off a lot better than if I'm here with my toe out. I open up, all I can push off there is that heel. Okay, so it sets them up to be able to move a little bit better, move a little bit more efficiently. So again, you can do that side shuffle evaluation. One more thing about the side shuffle evaluation, sorry about that, is as they plant, when they have that plant foot, if they plant way outside their hip and they try to go here, that's where a lot of injuries occur as well. So you always want to make sure that if you're watching this on film, you can kind of look at it and see if they're planting anything that's 15% or greater outside from underneath their hip, they're leaving themselves susceptible to injury. So they want to take their body to where it's over that hip and then they can be able to push up. Okay? Any questions so far about any of the evaluation before I move on? Okay. So other observations we've talked about, your lunge, your squats. You want to make sure if they are doing their squats in the weight room or squat jumps or anything like that, that when they go down, they have their chest up, their knees are pointing out, they're not kicking in, they don't have that valgus movement, they don't have that knee coming over or anything like that. So, and if you start to see those things and you haven't evaluated them, you want to make sure that you start evaluating them and see what you can do with them. So, once you've done this testing, then you can start possibly putting in a prevention program. Give them some exercises to do to correct that valgus movement or that toe out or the decreased knee flexion or any of those things. So, and what that's going to do is, one, just testing them and showing them the video. That's automatically going to give them some feedback to go off of and maybe correct some of those movements. So, being aware of just their issues that they have will, help them out. The next thing is you can start correcting those muscle imbalances. We talked about the ratio earlier, being 60, or your hamstring being 60 to 80% of your quad strength. So, kinesthetic awareness. What that is, working through those jumps and those plyos and things like that and making them go through those movements constantly and in the correct form. Not just taking them through the drills over and over and over and them doing it wrong, but making them aware through those movements, how they can load and reload and go. So what I recommend and what I've done with a lot of the athletes that I've been with this program is about a 6-week program, and we do it 2 to 3 times a week. It can be implemented in just the warm-up. It usually takes about 15 minutes to go through a normal routine that I would take them through. And what we really focus on is a lot of hamstring strength and then just some other muscle imbalances and kinesthetic awareness as well. So my hamstring protocol, again, this is 2 to 3 times a week. Leg curls, you see those there. If you've got the availability of equipment, you can just take them to a gym and take them through some normal leg curls and those types of things. Physio ball hip raises, where you're just sticking your feet up on the physio ball, pressing through the ball, raising your hips up, creating some stability back here. Physio ball leg curls, Russian leans, modified bridge, those types of things. Any of those types of things that you can do to increase that hamstring strength over a 6-week period, especially right before the season, so they can kind of work on that ratio a little bit. Again, I had a lot of videos of these before, and anyway, the kinesthetic awareness exercises, I just do a mix and match of these every workout, so there'll be 2 to 3, maybe even 4 exercises per workout. Just like the evaluation, you're on a box, you're on a seat or something like that, and you just drop, okay? That, just dropping into an athletic stance and making sure that they've got, you know, knees turned out, toes turned in, athletic stance and those types of things, that's going to give them their kinesthetic awareness and learn how to load and progress through jumping and landing and those types of things. Athletic stance and hold, you know, just getting them down in that stance and making them hold that and just drilling that in their head over and over and over and over. A lot of single leg stability stuff, like single leg stabilization or single leg hops, really improve the balance and their kinesthetic awareness in both of their legs, and being able to, you know, say for instance, a single leg hop, you know, you have them down in an athletic stance and you're jumping to one side and they're landing, jumping on one side and landing, and those types of things. They're learning to land in that athletic stance and have a little bit of balance stabilization to simulate an actual athletic movement in a game or something like that. So any single leg movements, broad jumps, bound skips, defensive slides, reactions drills, any of those types of things that they can just repeat the proper stance in any of those types of things that they can do. So we talked about athletic stance already. The side shuffle we talked about, turning your toe in and those types of things. So anyway, the overall goal here is to increase awareness of these ACL injuries and possibly start implementing prevention programs and those types of things. Like I said, if you don't have an athletic training staff that starts to implement those things and you're worried about ACL tears and those types of things, you can start implementing this program yourself and you know, making your athletes more aware of possible injuries and ways they can prevent those.